I call this meeting of the Alabama Board of Trustees of the Alabama Community College System to order. Welcome everyone to this regular meeting of the board. All those that are viewing via Zoom, we welcome you. We appreciate your interest in the system and the business of the Alabama Community College System. At this time, it's my honor and privilege to recognize and introduce Father James Dean of St. Joseph Catholic Church in Prattville. Father Dean will give our invocation this morning. Father Dean.
Thank you. Let us pray. Almighty and wise Father, guide the board of the Alabama Community Colleges to enact policies that promote the dignity and learning of all those enrolled in their institutions. Keep their students, faculty, and staff safe from all harm and illnesses, especially the coronavirus, and those who get sick, give them light symptoms and a quick recovery. May the leaders and professors of our Alabama community colleges model and encourage learning, research, and virtue by word and example, with all involved ever growing in grace and truth. May all our academic institutions strive to educate their students in the truth that comes from you, our omniscient God. We ask this of your provident care through Jesus Christ, our Lord God and teacher extraordinaire. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Dean.
You're welcome.
At this time, we'll stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Hibley, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Good morning, board. Mr. Al Thompson.
Present.
Mr. John Mitchell.
Present.
Ms. Susan Foy.
Present.
Mr. Matthew Woods.
Present.
Ms. Crystal Brown.
Present.
Mr. Milton Davis.
Present.
Mr. Chuck Smith.
Present.
Mr. Blake McAnally.
Present.
Mr. Jeff Newman.
Present.
Governor Kay Ivey. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mrs. Hibley. Next item on the agenda is the approval of today's agenda. The board has received this in advance of the meeting and had a time to review it. At this time, I will entertain a motion.
Motion from Milton Davis.
Motion by Mr. Davis. Is there a second?
Second by Crystal Brown.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor of approving today's agenda signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the August 12th, 2020 meeting. Once again, the board members received this in advance of the meeting, today's meeting, and have had a chance to review it. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McAnally. Was that a second by Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, if there's no objection on the agenda and on the minutes, I'll just do a voice vote. All those in favor of approval of the August 12th, 2020 minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? The minutes are approved. Item 6, public comment. Anyone signed up for public comment?
No one has signed up.
Thank you. We'll move into the business part of our agenda: academic and student affairs, adult education, facilities, fiscal, information technology, and workforce development. Item 7A1 is a recommendation for an associate in applied science and medical lab. It's a medical lab technician at Bishop State Community College. Any motion?
Motion from Milton.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Brown. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll move to a roll call vote on recommending and approving an associate in applied science and for a medical laboratory technician at Bishop State. Please call the roll, Ms. Hibble.
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Miss Susan Foy,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Woods,
Yes.
Miss Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7A2 is a recommendation for an associate degree in applied science and respiratory care therapy at Bishop State Community College. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Foy. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a voice roll call vote. It's recommended that an associate degree in applied science and respiratory care therapy at Bishop State Community College. Please call the roll, Ms. Hibble.
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Miss Susan Foy,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Woods,
Yes.
Miss Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Motion carries. The next item, 7A3, is a recommendation for an additional instruction site for Reed State Technical College in Greenville, Alabama. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Davis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Woods. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving this additional instructional site for Reed State Technical College in Greenville, please call the roll, Ms. Hibble.
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Miss Susan Foy,
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Miss Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7A4 is the recommendation for roof replacement of Enzer Hall at Gadsden State Community College. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Woods. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Brown. Discussion. There being no discussion, we'll move to a roll call vote for the roof replacement of Enzer Hall at Gadsden State Community College. Ms. Hibble, please call the roll.
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Miss Susan Foy,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Woods,
Yes.
Miss Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith,
Yes.
Mr.
Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7A5 is the recommended operating budgets for the Alabama Community College System for 2021. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Mitchell. Is there a second?
Second by Milton.
Second by Mr. Davis. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote for the operating budgets for the Alabama Community College System fiscal 2021. Ms. Hibley, please call the roll.
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Susan Foy,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Woods,
Yes.
Ms. Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Motion carries. Next, item 7A6 is a recommended system budget for the Alabama Community College System for fiscal 2021. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. McAnally. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Woods. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, we move to a roll call vote. Will you please call the roll, Ms. Hibley?
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Susan Foy,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Woods,
Yes.
Ms. Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith, Mr. Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7A7 is academic building fire restoration, resubmittal for Lawson State Community College. If you remember, they were going to do have the restoration work, but they also have some compliance with HIPAA issues that brought this back to us. This time I'll entertain a motion.
Motion by Milton.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, we'll move to a roll call vote on the building fire restoration resubmittal for Lawson State Community College. Ms. Hibley, please call the roll.
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Susan Foy,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Woods,
Yes.
Ms. Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Motion carries. We're next into section 8, executive, legal, and public information. 8A1 is a review and approval of a mission statement for Northeast Alabama Community College. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by John Mitchell. Is there a second?
Whatever.
Who was the second? Matt Woods. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Please call the roll.
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Susan Foy,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Woods,
Yes.
Ms. Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 8A2 is review and approval of a recommended mission statement for Bishop State Community College. Is there a motion?
Motion by Milton.
Is there a second?
Second by Chuck.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Hibley, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Susan Foy,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Woods,
Yes.
Ms. Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 8A3 is review and approval of a mission statement for Wallace Community College, Selma. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Mr. Mitchell. Discussion. Being no discussion, we'll move to a roll call vote on the mission statement for Wallace Community College, Selma. Please call the roll, Ms. Hidley.
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Susan,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Woods,
Yes.
Ms. Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Stand corrected on the restoration at Lawson State. That was in being ADA compliance and not HIPAA. Thank you, Mr. Smith. We go to section 9, personnel. Chancellor.
Yes, we have received a letter of retirement notice from Dr. Kim Ennis from Bevel. So we need to officially accept her retirement effective the end of September.
Is there a motion?
Motion to
Motion
accept.
by Mr. Woods. Is there a second?
Second, Chuck.
Any discussion? Mr. Woods?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Dr. Ennis for her service to not only Bevel State, but also to the communities that college serves. She has really devoted so much of her life to that college, and she's going to be missed, and certainly want to wish her all the best in her retirement.
Well said. Any other comments?
Well, just as a note, at some point when we are back together in person, I had intended to invite Dr. Ennis, Dr. Lavender, and others who have retired so we could recognize them in a public environment and their contributions.
Thank you, Chancellor. I hope that day will come very soon. Anything additional under personnel?
We need to vote, Al.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. There's been a motion and a second to accept the retirement letter from Dr. Kim Ennis of Bevel State Community College. At this time, Ms. Hibbley, please call the roll.
Mr. Al Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. John Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Susan Foy,
Yes.
Mr. Matthew Woods, Mr. Matthew Woods,
Yes.
Ms. Crystal Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Milton Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Chuck Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Blake McAnally.
Yes.
Motion carries. Chancellor, is there anything else? Any personnel?
No more personnel.
Okay. Are there any committee reports? Ms. Brown, Mr. Smith, Mr. McAnally, Mr. Davis?
None from me.
None for me today.
None from me as well.
Section 11, Chancellor's report.
Yes, I would like to update you on something that we don't spend a lot of time talking about. Our ATN operation, Alabama Technology Network. And as you know, that is received a sizable federal grant. In addition to that, we have to match that federal grant and raise funds by providing services to operating industry businesses. And we've just had to do our annual analysis and reporting to the feds. And I'm almost afraid to read the numbers to you. And I mean that in a positive way. Keith Phillips and his group, and most of the people employed are engineers or other professional trained consultants. The annual report requires that we go through and that everything we report has to be verified by the company that we did services for. We had total number of jobs of about 795 different projects and jobs. Some are lengthy, some one day, and some for most of the year. Then it has to be broken down into some evaluation of the results of our efforts to assist business and industry. And it's broken down into increase in sales, returning sales, as far as people coming back to revisit you for sales purposes, cost savings evaluations, plant equipment amounts that we've been able to help them secure, and a whole variety of other kinds of practices. All of that is reduced down to actual dollars of value added in the process. The total impact of ATN for this past fiscal year has been $1,250 million.
Wow.
I said that with a B.
Wow.
That is an amazing report. And I'm going to send you copies of all of this report. But I knew we were doing a lot of good things. This is kind of something that travels almost invisible. But we are out there in the field helping existing business and industry, small and large. And according to their reports, that's an example of what we're doing across the state and have done for the last year. So I just thought that little note was kind of important for you to understand and appreciate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
That's great information, Chancellor. Something to really be proud of. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Al, if I may,
Yes, sir.
I have used their services with the company I represent, and it has been a great service. The training excellent, and we continue to use them. So to Keith and his people, thank you for doing a good job.
Anyone else? Anything else, Chancellor?
That's my report.
Okay. We'll go straight into the work session after adjournment of the regular meeting this morning. Our next regular meeting will be October 14th, 2020. And at this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
For a second.
Sure.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And adjourn.
Yeah.
Okay, we will open the work session. September 2020 work session. Under Workforce and Economic Development. Is there anyone that's going to speak to these three items?
Yes, this is Barry May. Can you hear me?
You have the floor, Barry. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So the first action item is the existing industry training program. As many of you know, the existing industry training program is a program that serves the training needs of existing industry. Each project involving only one company can be awarded a maximum amount of $15,000 or can participate with other companies in an open enrollment scholarship process. All the applicants are required to provide evidence of leveraged or matching funds And we have found that the EITP program has proven to be impactful to the businesses which participate, and has led to many follow-up business and partnerships with the companies for future training projects with our colleges or in institutions. We are requesting that the board approves an amount of $300,000 for this initiative, which would be level from the previous 2 years. I'd be happy to take any questions that you may have regarding this program. Okay. If there are none, I would like to move on to the Career Coach Initiative. In past years, the legislature has dedicated $600,000 for Career Coach initiatives from the Industry Certification Initiative funds. This board has recognized in the past that this amount is not nearly enough to serve the population of students that our colleges have, but our colleges continue to use these funds to either provide or supplement the funding for dedicated resources or services. We have sought a significant increase in the funding this past, but unfortunately we were unable to acquire any additional funding. As we have done in the past couple years, we are going to divide the funding equally among the colleges that have requested those funds and have presented a plan for how they will use those funds. It is important to note that for the past 2 years, Enterprise State has participated in a Success Coach Initiative pilot that is very targeted in providing career coach advisement to high school students that need career planning support and have not yet developed any post-secondary career goals. And so the goal of that program is to help the students gain the confidence needed to enter college in their desired career pathway in order to gain the education skills needed to acquire a profitable career. We've seen great results from this pilot, and we plan on using this pilot to show the impacts of the program to the legislature, and hopefully make a case for additional funding for the career coach initiatives for this next year. I would be happy to take any questions that you may have regarding the career coach program.
This is Chuck Berry, and you've heard this before, and I'll keep saying it. I hope there is a check and balance on this to make sure it's working in the field and getting feedback of where they're going, when they're going, to make sure what limited resources we have is being used. And I think that may help you with your case on more funding.
Yes, sir. And we do get reports from our career coaches, and we have also a career coach software that is, we provide access to all of our students and high school students across the state, in which they can do career coach explorations, career explorations, as well as complete assessments and to look and see what careers match their interests and their skill sets. And each of the careers in our career coach program are linked to a program at one of our community colleges. And so many of our career coaches across the state are leveraging this resource at the high schools that they serve. And we get many inquiries from students every day from our career coach site at the system. We connect to our career coaches to provide additional information about the programs and the careers that are connected with those. So we feel like our colleges are progressing and serving to the best of their abilities with the resources that we have available and are providing to them.
Mary, if I can help you or the chancellor with extra funding, please let me know. This is a great program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. If there's no other questions, I'll move on to the Industry Certification Initiative Funds action item. So the list of awards that you've been presented for consideration of approval represent the initial awards that have resulted in a new workforce grant evaluation process that we've implemented with the regional workforce councils this year. This process includes three main we believe will improve industry engagement to evaluate, rank, and provide recommendations of funding for workforce grant proposals. And it has also provided the regional workforce councils with a more consistent process of evaluating those proposals. Of the changes that we've made this year, the first one is we are limiting the amount per proposal that the college can request of $500,000 per proposal. This is meant to address that colleges in the past that have requested amounts that required a significant percentage of the overall allocation for workforce funds. And this has presented not only problems with the regional councils making, providing recommendations and so forth for funding, but it's also presented issues with basically, the college not being able to implement the proposal because of us not being able to fund the full amount. And so we have implemented a waiver process. We recognize that there are exceptions that a college may need to request an amount that may be above that for good reasons. And so we have put a process in that the college can request a waiver from the chancellor to exceed that amount. But this particular year, we have only seen one college request the waiver for that. And so we feel like the process worked pretty well this year. And all the requests were reasonable and really some good requests. We had a lot of the regional councils provide great feedback on the request from the colleges this year. So we also implemented a standardized scoring process with our regional councils. In the past, we had regional councils doing the scoring and ranking process differently pretty much in every region. And so what we developed was a standardized criteria, and as well as a standardized form in which each regional council would provide very detailed reasons how they scored each criteria of the review process, and explain some detailed explanations for the low and the high scores. And this has been extremely helpful for us to determine why they scored something high, why they scored something low, and we've asked them to provide detailed recommendations in regards to how they recommend funding for this. And it's been a great improvement. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from our regional councils in regards to the process. I think the majority of them appreciated having some guidance in regards to how to rank those and so forth. So the third change is that we had a lot of feedback regarding from the regional councils that their industry that had participated in the rankings of the grants did not feel that they had a lot of buy-in because there was no guarantee that the grants that they ranked with a 5 or the highest were going to receive funds. And so this year we have allotted $1.5 million of a guarantee of funds for 5s that they ranked. So this has also been well received. And what you have presented today before you represents those guaranteed funds, the ones that they guaranteed funds, and all of the ones that they ranked were very reasonable. They were good grants. We had sector expert, a group of sector expert committees that our system office has recruited. A team from our workforce, the system office has recruited experts from industry to also review the grants, and all of the rankings that the Regional Workforce Council align with the sector experts rankings very well. And so we feel confident that the 5s that were awarded are worthy of those rankings. what we've presented here represents $3.7 million of the workforce funds, and for 13 of which 11 of those grants support advanced manufacturing programs. 2 of those represents our support CDL programs, 2 support healthcare programs, and then there is 1 grant each that support aviation, welding, and a public safety workforce initiative. That one being at Marion Institute. So we are in the process of reviewing the remaining grants, and the feedback from the sector expert committees that we've recruited. We have a committee made up of our workforce liaisons, workforce directors, and career and technical education team that will be determining the allocations of the remaining workforce funds. I would be happy to take any questions that you have regarding any of the grants that are on the list, as well as the process that we've implemented this year.
Barry, is it possible for us just to get a copy of the process for our own information and reference?
Yes, sir. I would be happy to send that to you.
All right, thank you.
Barry, this is Chuck. Thank you. This has been much needed. One question, how is this working where one school requests go into multiple regional councils? Does the limit apply for the total or for each regional council they go to?
So for instance, Bevel is a good example. They serve, they have campuses, locations that across 3 different regions. They will submit basically the requests or proposals to each of those regions. And we do not put a limit on that. And the reason for that is if we did not allow them to submit for proposals in the same manner that they do in their other regions, then it would really put the campus that's located in that region at a very disadvantage to support industry in that region and so forth. So we have not put a limit on the proposals that they can request or the amount that they can request. However, that is a consideration when looking at the total amount awarded to the colleges. And so we just kind of keep an eye on that to see, ensure that there's not a excessive amount that goes to any one college, if that makes any sense.
Thanks, Barry. Great job.
Mary, I just want to echo what Chuck had to say. Thanks for to overhaul this application process, and it is critical for these colleges to hear back from councils on their applications, good or bad. So that.
Thank you very much. Is there, if there's not any other questions, that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Barry. Legal, Mr. O'Brien.
Good morning to you all. We'll start with the general liability insurance. We have started our search for general liability and cyber liability a month earlier than usual this year. We do not have a premium quote as yet for the general liability. We have submitted all of the requested information, and I am hopeful that we will have a premium quote within the next week for the general liability. With regard to the cyber liability, we do not as yet have a quote. A broker has requested some additional information that has been requested by various underwriters. We are in the process of working with the IT division to gather that information, and we hope to have that to them by the end of the week. And as soon as we have a quote with regard to the cyber liability, we will certainly provide that. My expectation is that it's going to be somewhat higher this year based on our loss history, but we will see. Does anyone have any questions with regard to either the general liability insurance or the cyber liability insurance? The next item, Mr. Thompson, on the agenda is Wallace State Hansville's request for approval of its expending approximately $750,000 for an upgrade and updating its information technology infrastructure. The college, if approved, will replace all campus network switches to facilitate the superseding of multi-mode fiber with single-mode fiber, thereby increasing the internal network bandwidth to allow improved stability and performance and to allow future growth. The switch replacement will also provide a drastic increase in security by removing the outdated switches and firmware that could potentially be a target for cyber attackers, putting critical systems at risk. This proposed upgrade has been reviewed by the system office IT division and approved. Does anyone have any questions regarding this item?
Is this, since the source is Secures Act funding, is this one of those items that requires expenditure before the end of the year?
I don't know the answer to that question, Mr. Davis, but I will find out and let you know.
It is not. It is not.
It's not?
It
Okay.
is not tied to that money. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Facilities.
Morning, everyone. Can we get the PowerPoint presentation pulled up, please? Okay. Azrael, if you can pull up the PowerPoint, please. We have one item to discuss today, and that is the Bevel State Community College Mine Training Facility. Azrael, next slide, please. Next one, please. This item previously came to the board last year. The scope and the budget we're presenting today are the same as previously submitted. As a quick refresher, scope of this project is an addition to the existing mine training facility at Bevel State's Summerton campus. What we're doing with this project and our ability to train on longwall mining safety or longwall mining techniques in mine safety. The project is being funded through a state appropriation. We'll let the board know that this project is scheduled to bid tomorrow, and we're anticipating bringing it before the board for final approval in October using actual bid numbers from tomorrow's bid. Next slide, please, Asher. And one more, please. The budget remains the same as it was presented last year. The total expenditure for this project is expected to be $950,000. That's our current estimate. In accordance with Board Policy 501, it was recently updated. We will use actual bid numbers when we present the final budget and the action item for approval next month. Can I answer any questions about this project? That's it for me. Thank you.
Thompson, the next item on the agenda is Wallace State Hansville's request for approval of its naming its student center in memory of Dr. Garland E. Gudger Sr. Dr. Gudger served Wallace State as the Dean of Students from 1976 through 1996. Dr. Gudger passed away in May of 2018. Dr. Gudger was the first dean hired at Wallace State in 1976 and was passionate about student involvement and understood the valuable role of sports to a student body. He's remembered by many for the large intramural sports program he designed for students, including basketball and flag football. And he retired in 1996, but has continued to support the college, encouraging students to enroll, promoting athletics, and forever being a cheerleader for all that the college has accomplished. Dr. Karolowicz has included a rationale with the request for the naming of the Student Center for Dr. Gudger that was included in your packet of materials. Does anyone have any questions regarding this item?
Just additional information, his son is a state senator that represents that area of the state.
Right. Great guy.
Add to that, Dr. Gudger is much beloved in that community and served for Wallace State Hansville. His daughter was my high school counselor and went on to still doing some outstanding things in world education. So a great family all the way around.
Anything else to come before the board for the work session? David, Chancellor,
No, sir.
board members, anything from any of you? Seeing nothing else, if there's no objection, we will stand adjourned for the today's work session. And thanks for everyone's participation and involvement from the staff, Chancellor, and all the board members. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.